Welcome back to the debate on France 24, where we have been discussing the controversy over the former Dutch MP Ayaan Hirsi Ali's efforts toward assuming French citizenship in order to secure protection against the Muslim extremists who've been threatening her life. And joining me again to continue the discussion are, via satellite from Manchester, New Hampshire, Robert Spencer, a writer and director of jihadwatch.org. From New York, Irshad Manji, an author, producer, and reform-minded Muslim activist. From Washington, D.C., Abed Ayoub, legal advisor at the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee, the ADC. And on the phone, joining us from Paris, Amal Boubaker, who is research fellow and leader of the Islam and Europe program at the Center for European Policy Studies. Thanks all so much for joining us tonight. Amal, let me begin with you again, as you are the only one actually here in France with us. A question being asked here specifically in this country in response to Hirsi Ali's very brazen criticism of the Islamic religion is that had she made the same type of critique against Judaism or Christianity, would people be calling for her protection just the same?
Well, I think what is interesting with the Ayaan Hirsi Ali case is that she's raising interesting questions about the place of Islam in a secular society. And of course, we have the security concern, which is absolutely non-questionable. I mean, as we were discussing it out of the record, nobody who is threatened by radicals, and I would not say Muslims, but by radicals, whatever they are, Muslims or not, should have police protection. But you have also, on the other hand, the impact of these debates on the public opinion. And what is clear now is that the majority of French citizens don't have a real clear idea of what Islam is. And if we want to bring more Muslims into debates around human rights, around gender equality and so on, we cannot do it without French Muslims. And we absolutely need to also associate Muslims who are, and even observant Muslims who are fighting against what Ayaan Hirsi Ali is suffering of.
Okay. Irshad Manji, I see you nodding your head,
Andrea,
but go ahead.
Indeed, because I want to just add a corollary to what Amel said. She's very, very right that we need to be encouraging Muslims within the faith. Obviously, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, as I mentioned earlier, is an ex-Muslim. She has left Islam, which is perfectly in her rights to do so. But to get more Muslims from within the faith to be speaking up about the need for freedom of conscience will actually require moving this debate beyond just a single individual like Ayaan. And that's why I'm happy to say that the great thing that the French government has done as of yesterday is that it has announced its support for a pan-European fund to help physically protect Muslim dissidents who are coming from within Islam. And what that means is lower profile Muslims who are still speaking up about the need for reform will finally get the physical protection that is their due. Somebody like Ayaan, and to a certain degree somebody like me, we are protected by the boatloads of media coverage that we get. But lesser known people such as Mohammed Safawi, who is a French-Algerian documentary maker who risks his life by going into radical mosques and chronicling what happens there, most people don't know about him, and therefore if he's killed, no one is really going to say much because he doesn't have that profile. Well, why should he be killed? He, above all, more than Ayaan and even more than me, somebody like him needs the protection of the French government. And that is what this European fund will do without draining resources only from French citizens.
Okay, let me ask Abed Ayoub the initial question, then I'll see if you'll speak specifically to this, as I think it's something a lot of people would rather not confront directly. But had Ayaan Hirsi Ali actually been as strong, as brazen a critic of the Jewish religion, perhaps of the state of Israel, do you think she'd be granted the same kind of support in a country like France or any EU country or the United States?
I don't think she would be granted the same type of support, and I'm talking in terms of taxpayer security support. I don't think she would be granted that support, no.
Why?
And unfortunately, the facts speak for themselves. As you guys were telling me over the break, there was a note, calling for her head. Now, you do have radicals. I don't call them Muslims. I don't call them anything. They're just radicals outside the religion that are going for her. My thing is she knows what she's doing. She knows the line of work she's in. and she should be able to front her own security bill, just as we were talking over the break, the employer could pay for your security. Now, I like the idea of the fund. That's up to Europe and its citizens to see who's going to put money into that and how that's going to be funded. But to go back to your question, had it been she was speaking up against Israel or anything else, I don't think we would be even having a discussion about security funds.
Okay, Robert Spencer, your take on that?
Well, that's because
We
she
wouldn't
would
be having
getting
it.
death threats if
Yeah,
she was
well,
speaking
we wouldn't
up
be having
against
that
Israel.
discussion about security funds because there wouldn't be people who were threatened. I mean,
Well,
there are
I
vociferous
mean,
critics of the
we
state
have
of
to admit
Israel
there are
who
Jewish...
occupy high positions. You know, Noam Chomsky is a hero to many people. He's not under any threat for his life, and he's a very vehement critic of the state of Israel. There are many others. The idea that there's any kind of parallelism here is kind of absurd. Really, the reason why such a fund has to be set up for Muslim dissidents, and I'm very happy to hear that it has, and I entirely agree with Irshad Manji that such a fund ought to encourage Muslim dissidents who are lesser known to speak out, which is just what we need. The idea that there would be any kind of parallel if people criticize Judaism or Christianity is belied by the fact that people criticize Judaism and Christianity on a more or less routine basis. And not only are they not under fear for their lives, but they're lionized by the popular culture. And so the particular threat that we have here is that whether or not one calls these people Muslims, they certainly call themselves Muslims. And they point to things like Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, saying, if anybody changes his religion, kill him, and other statements of this kind from Islamic tradition and the Quran, and they justify acts of violence on that basis. And until that is addressed by Muslim reformers, and until they are protected such that they have the ability to speak out and address these things without being in fear for their lives, this kind of violent intimidation will continue, and that puts the very notion of a free society at risk.
Abed, did you have a response to that?
Yeah, actually...
Well, I'm just want to...
Sorry.
Go hold on,
Go ahead.
Abed, and then Amel.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to keep focused. My main issue here is that there is the fund. I agree that she does need security. My thing is, why are the taxpayers paying for this? I don't think that the taxpayers should be paying for her security. She knows what she's doing. She knows the words she's speaking, the line of work she's in, and the work she's doing is going to bring this on. Unfortunately, that's the times we live in right now. This is happening. It would be great if it wasn't, but these radicals are doing this. But she should be able to front her own security without any cost to the French citizens.
But that's saying, unless you can afford your security, you better not speak up, because these people are allowed to intimidate and control what you say about their religion.
Exactly.
Well, they do intimidate, they do control, but there are minimal ways that they could provide her security. I don't see the need of a multi-million-dollar security package to protect her. I personally don't see that. I think there are other ways to protect her life and to ensure she is safe, that maybe if they sat down and figured out a way, they could do it.